We're all right. We are now recording. And we'll be posting this. We'll send you a link later on to the meeting. It's a YouTube link. It's a rather large file, so it's really too large to email around to everybody, but we'll send you a link after I post it. So do we have any first-time visitors? Riley. Well, welcome, and if you'd like to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, my name is Pat Riley, and Blake is introduced me to the club, and I recognize John Bentley and also Elton through a friend of mine.
Great. Your audio is a little choppy there, but welcome.
Is that a little better?
I think so. Try it again.
Pat Riley, I recognize John, and Mr. Blake is the one who invited me to the meeting, and I also recognize Ellen.
Great. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Anybody else this morning? Okay. All right. So we will. We're going to run through who's here a little bit later, but we'll move on to the secretary's minutes. Anne.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, I'm hearing is it giving feedback? Can you guys? Oh, there, that's better. Okay. I posted the secretary's minutes to our website, and I have not received any changes. So is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Great. Okay. Any discussion? Any opposition? We'll just do it that way. Anybody opposed? All right. Minutes are approved. Let's see. Treasurer's report. Randy.
Can you all see the treasurer's report? All right, so we had an income of $760.08 and expenses of a total of $43.25. Not much going on in the financial part of business with everybody kind of staying at home kind of thing. So we've accumulated $9,529 in our checking account, and the repeater maintenance fund has $605. The repeater endowment is chugging right along. We have $14,275 in that account for the repeater, and our general investment is $515.07, still down a little bit from what we invested in it. Any questions on the treasurer's report?
I move we accept the treasurer's report. This is Ann.
Roger seconds. Any discussion? Is there anybody opposed? All right. Thank you, Randy. Treasurer's report is passed. Let's see. We've got next is VE report. Randy.
Right. VE report. We of course have no VE sessions that the club has put on themselves, but we have a number of VEs from the club who are participating in the Lake Washington AM Club VE program. And I just contacted Dave Wickard. He's the president of the club down there, and what the number is of people that have come in for either new or had an upgrade, and since the beginning of the year, and that number sits at 380 people have gotten their license or upgraded in the since January 1st. So that program, and that's just one place where they're moving ahead. So that's a good deal. There's another thing I want to bring out. Those of you that are ARL members probably already know this pretty clearly, but I just wanted to make sure everybody got the message. It has to do with the increasing of fees for getting a license or renewing your license. The SCHC has passed a new rule. They've submitted it to the Federal Register on March 19th to raise the fee to $35 for us hams. That's what it's going to be for ham radio licenses. And normally, once it's submitted, 1 month later, it becomes active or becomes enforceable. But that would be April 19th. And you may have seen some emails, oh, April 19th is going up. Well, that's the rule becomes active, but because there's money involved and they have to tell Congress and they have to update their systems and they have to do this and that, they won't be activating or requiring that $35 until sometime later this summer when they get all the ducks in a row and get it all set up. So you might be somebody might be under the impression it's 19th of April. That's not true as far as paying the fee. So the result will be that if you come to a VE session and you want to upgrade or you want to get a new license, you will at the VE session have to pay $15 to do the testing. All right. And then through another mechanism, not through the VEs or through the club, you will pay SCHC $35 to get your new license or upgrade your license. And if all you're going to do is ask for a vanity call or change your address, I'm sorry, if you want to change your call sign, then all you do is pay $35 to the FCC. Changing your mailing address, changing your email, those are done free of charge, no charge for that. So any questions on that upcoming fee change? Yes, Roger.
Roger, yep.
Is there any possibility that you can renew your license in advance to avoid that charge?
Okay, is there, I didn't quite understand, to remove that charge, what?
You do it in advance. Mine will expire not for another year or so.
Okay, okay, I get it now. Yeah, if you have to be within 90 days of your expiration before you can submit for a renewal of your license. So depending on what day they pick, it's going to be that how you fall against that time frame.
Thank you.
Any other questions? That's the end of my review.
Thank you, Randy.
You bet.
Okay, move on then to the education report. Jim?
Not a lot to report. We're still getting questions about when we're going to open back up and start teaching classes. And I tell them we're just standing by until our venue is open and we can get everybody vaccinated and everybody safe. So we still have lots of interest. I don't think we're ever going to lose interest in a face-to-face class. And hopefully we can get back on track pretty soon. But I have nothing. We do not plan on doing an online course at this time.
Any questions for Jim? And we're going to have a little discussion later about in-person meetings and that sort of thing. So it's evolving slowly. Okay, new member introductions, Ann.
Hi. There are no new members this month. So should I go ahead and
why don't you
do the list of members?
Yeah, we'll go on to listed members.
Okay. There's kind of an echo. I don't know if anything we can do.
Well, before you go on, James, you've got a question?
Yes, sir. Can you mute yourself when other people are talking? I believe you're the cause of the echo we're hearing.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that.
Okay, I'm going to start on the list of members that are attending today. Jim Blake, KD7JB, Jennifer Blake, KJ7ARG, Dennis Bradford, W7DEB, Tom Bruns, K7ITM, Stephen Burling, KJ7YL, Carrie Burnett, KC7YL, Michael Burnett, AF7KB, Nate Cheka, NOUVI, Phyllis DeSoto, KI7OYP. Gary Evans, AB7RK, Ann Garay, K2MTN, Bruce Gary, K7BGG, Curtis Green, N7OBI, Victor Harris, KI7MMZ, Lauren Hole, KK7M, Roger Hoot, KF7WVT, Randy Johnson, KJ7ENF, Tim Kephart, KJ7AKV, Randy Mather, AJ7B, Mary O'Farrell, KE7FQJ, James Otis, KJ7QFK, Alan Person, KJNWR, Henry Polland, KH6BM, Kristen Kiera, Greg Rainwater, W7ACM, Stephen Ramsayer, N7SRR, Ken Rich, W7SLW, Jack Rucard, KC7YE, Rob Salzgiver, NR30, Mark Simpkins, K7VXN, Dave Summers, KI7DPP, Jordan Thompson, N7XLD, John Van Dalen, N7AME, Dave Walker, KJ7KEO, Douglas Walker, KJ7KZE, Eldon Wallstatt, KB7SOL, and Donald Middlestadt, K7BA, and David Owen, KI7HSB. So if you did not hear your name, please send me a private chat to let me know that you're here, and I will make sure to mark you down. Back to Dave.
Great, thank you. Is the echo better? I had inadvertently hit original sound. It's a setting in the up corner that echoes locally, so sorry about that. Victor?
Thank you, Dave. I wanted to go back to what Randy was talking about on the licensing. I was involved in a conversation a couple weeks ago about the effective date and the end date on those licenses. And if you're unaware, your license date, especially for the new licensees, I tested in 2017. That is my license date, even though I've upgraded now to extra. And that was in 19. My expiration date is still 2027. So the 10 years from your original date. That may play a role in some of you who are considering a vanity plate. If you do that, or a vanity license, if you do that, say at this point, whether or not it still remains the 10-year period, or if you start a new period, and I don't believe you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. All right, we'll move on to the repeater update. New repeaters, Rob?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Not a whole heck of a lot new to report on the new repeater side. Most of my club-oriented time has been spent playing with email. So other than that, I believe the old machines have been doing fairly well. We've had the periodic Echolink issue, but that seems to be up and running at the moment. And of course, Windows updates there. The other thing that is, thank you. Anyhow, we have the grandson over, so keeping track of that is kind of like the herd of cats kind of thing.
Thank you.
Anyhow, the battery backup for the repeaters is been approved by the board in the budget for this year. We just need to acquire it and get it up there. Henry, anything from your end?
No, I echo what you say. You know, it's the Windows updates, our biggest one. We're still working on a Raspberry Pi version of that. I'm looking at a board right now. I think the board's actually designed by one of our other club members up there too. So I'm just looking at that when I have time. Maybe get away from the Windows update issue. Otherwise, getting a backup power supply over there would be awesome. It's a pretty noisy location, especially being in the elevator shaft over there. Lots of stuff going on.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments? You got sunshine coming on. What is that? Gee. All right, we will move on to old business. Net controller status, Jim Blake and Carrie Burnett.
We're having a class tomorrow.
Didn't know you were on the agenda, did you?
No. We are having a class tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Just going to do some, go over some questions and answers about net control protocol. And then we're going to observe Jim Blake doing net control on Zoom while he's on the radio. And we've tested that out. It'll work. And then we're going to have a half-hour debrief afterwards, after the net ends. And so if you would like, go ahead and email me and I'll send you the link.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. And thanks for putting on that class. Did a great job.
Thanks.
I think we had about half a dozen of us go through it. But if you'd like to join as a net controller, let Carrie or Ray know about that. And it's pretty straightforward. And the more the merrier. It helps everybody out if we've got more hands at the wheel. So, okay. Any questions about that? All right. Financial Investment Committee. This looks like me and Ray. We're still looking for someone for the Financial Investment Committee, and we're looking for somebody who's knowledgeable about investments and can help us out there. And please let Ray know if you're interested in this position. Ray, do you have anything else on that?
Oh, he's not here today.
Ray's not here. I should know that, shouldn't I?
Sorry.
Saturday morning. Crazy. Okay, Thursday evening training class. Progress report. John, you want to give us an update on the Thursday evening classes? John.
He stepped away from his desk for a moment.
Yeah, he was here.
Yeah, he was here. We'll come back to that. Mailing list update. Rob, want to give us the status and plans for email?
Yeah, it's been fun. We've been setting up the new groups, trying to get the settings all the same as what's on the existing set of systems. There will be invites sent out probably within an hour or so after the meeting that you'll see popping up in your inbox. There should be one for each list that you're currently set up for. So for example, everyone will get a minimum of 2, one for the announcements only list and one for the members list. And then if you happen to be a part of, say, the repeater or the tech or whatever other lists, you get one for those as well. So one of the questions that came up that you'll hit is, yes, if you are going to join the list via Groups.io, if you've never used that, you'll be asked to set up an account. That would be your own ID and password. And I understand, how folks get tired of having to set up new things, but you have to have an account for them to keep your stuff basically separate from everyone else's. And that would be true if we were using Google Groups or Yahoo or anything else.
Right, got a phone going off here. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I have the grandson going off after a head bonk in the background on my end, so it seems to be one of those days. I apologize. Anyhow, so if you accept the invitation, you will be able to join the new groups. You might have seen a few people might have seen a test of those. So, for example, I'm setting up calendar entries, and you will be able to get automated reminders coming up to our general meetings, our weekly nets, so on and so forth. So hopefully that will help jostle people's memories and increase some participation on those functions as well. So that's the short version, as short as I can make it. If you do not receive invites by the end of today or say tomorrow morning, hit me an email directly or via the list if absolutely need to, the old list I should say. But there should be invites in everyone's inboxes later today.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions or comments? Yeah, Roger.
When will there be a cutoff date or transition period, or when do we know that we can only use the new one?
Yep, fair question. So the plan right now is that we'll get the invites sent out. I will be able to see through the group's IO who all has acknowledged and joined and what are still pending. So I would estimate probably within 3 days. So at some point next week, we should have as many over that we're going to get, and we can do individual follow-ups. And then I will send notes out via the new and old lists that we're making the transition, and the old ones will be shut down. So hopefully that goes about as smoothly as we can hope.
Bruce, BGG. Got your hand up, Bruce Gary. Can't hear you if you're. All right. Anybody else?
Dave?
Yep.
I missed the section where I was supposed to say something.
Yeah, we can go back to that right now, John.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
No problem.
Thursday evening training classes, I think, are going okay. We're having anywhere from 6 to 14, 15 people. Last week we covered contesting, which is kind of one of the reasons we're ham radio operators, I would presume. And today we're going to talk about another type of called roving. And basically I'll go through some of the basics of roving as an amateur radio operator. And I ask you to join us on Thursday night. I am leading it, but I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the world. So everybody helps, and I appreciate the help that people have been giving me. So I figured our last Thursday night program was going to go for about a half hour to an hour, ended up going for an hour and a half. So because of other inputs. So thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, John, thank you for doing that. It's really great having that activity during the week and opportunity for people to get together. We all appreciate it very much. Okay, Bruce Gary, I noticed you're unmuted. Did you have something? Yeah, a few minutes ago.
My headset decided to ignore me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. So I just had a question for, I think it was Rob, about the email. He mentioned there were a number of lists that people were being subscribed to. Is there a way of knowing what lists are out there? So, for example, are there topic-related lists? And if there's like a new to high-frequency list or a DX list or whatever, we know it's out there so we can subscribe to it?
Yes, there is a list of lists, if you will, on the club website. They will be updated. There's not a lot of them, and to be honest, most of the non-general member lists are pretty infrequently trafficked. And I had actually put out a note to the board I'll probably have it out there to the membership as well once we get things somewhat settled down of what lists we want to have and what we want to get rid of. Having enough traffic on them to keep people interested is even though we have 100+ members, you know, we don't have 20 or 30 typically that are interested in a particular subtopic to keep it active. So that might be something that we'll have to work on.
Great, thanks. And sort of my sub question is, as you all have probably noted, I'm on my learning path, and as I come up with something that I can't figure out and other people might be wrestling with too, I've been throwing a message out to a newbie question out to the general membership list. Is there a better way for me to handle that won't be disruptive, or should I keep doing that or stop entirely? Or
no, you're doing perfectly fine. That's exactly the type of stuff that the list is for. You know, and I can see where
you muted yourself, Rob.
Rob, you're muted.
Well, habit with the grandson running around. We no more than got done with one shout out, and he was dinging the bell on his bicycle. So Shell took him outside for a moment. So anyhow, no, that's what the list is perfectly for. Those types of questions, we do try to, you know, we do have a fair amount of effort that goes into keeping the extraneous stuff down to a minimum. You know, the 30 emails that simply say "me too" kind of thing, that's really what we're shooting for. But no, if you have questions and things like that, that's exactly what that part of the list is for. Don't change a thing. You're doing fine, sir.
cool, thank you.
Rob, another groups IOs that I'm involved in, people can post messages on different topics, and there's, you go onto the group IO site, there's really, you can see the topic header, and there might be 7 or 8 messages about that topic. Are we set up?
I can't help but help feeling slightly overwhelmed. And okay, my overwhelming feeling is that there's too much for me to grab the other end of the box and move it.
Okay, I think we've got maybe a couple different things going on here. There's someone else in the background that's not muted.
Had 4. I guess that's not for us. I'm gonna mute that. And
Hi, I just wanted to say that sometimes we send an email to everyone, and we might say in that email, please respond directly to us. And I would really put a big please about that. If we're asking for direct responses, I would rather you didn't respond to the whole list. So anyway, back to you.
I would like to suggest then, if you're going to, that's a great idea, and that you should put your email address into the email list and stuff, so people have an easy time with it. I think the stuff that I get looks like it's from someone in the club, but if you do a reply, it goes to the full list.
okay, let's see. First, James Wells.
So kind of following up on what Kurt was just talking about, depending upon the mail browser, currently it will show, for example, Anne's email as the from, but if you click on reply, it actually uses a reply to header to reply to the list. Groups.io does fix that problem, which is nice. What I'm kind of curious about, though, is are we going to be enabling random group creation, or are we going to leave that off?
Rob?
At the moment, I think we'll probably be leaving it off until we get things on our existing groups set up and moving. What we can do going forward, we'll see once we get the transition done and go from there. I don't know that we're going to have enough. My gut says we're not going to have enough activity, but you know, hey, we can do that. A couple other notes regarding the whole reply to on off list, things of that nature. Some people are going to be more comfortable and quicker to be able to figure that out than others. But with respect to the group's IO list, one of the things I plan on doing is we'll probably have a series of emails go out on some of the basics, how to do this, how to do that. There'll be short single topic things. I don't plan to get too carried away. The other thing that is kind of useful is you can actually mute individual topics. So, you know, if you're not into contesting, there's a thread that gets going on and carries on for a while via contesting or new classes, or pick your topic, and you're not necessarily, you know, wanting to follow that at the moment, you should be able to mute that topic and still follow the other stuff. So back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Rob. Any other questions or comments on? Okay, good. Well, evolving situation, but I think it's going to be for the better, much better. We've been.
Dave, Roger has a question.
Oh.
And Steve Burling.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. I just, not so much of a question, just a comment that part of the problem, I also have concerns about everybody piling on and responding to an email when it specifically indicates within the email not to do so. And that's caused by a couple of factors. One is that a lot of people in the club now do not realize that roster, a contact roster is posted on the club website. They can easily look up what the email address is of the initial correspondent. So maybe a periodic reminder that you can find a list of the members on their website. There's 3 versions: by last name, by call sign, and by first name, I think. The second part of that is you run into the problem that a lot of people forget the password to get into the members only portion of the club website to get those rosters. So in that we can't put out quite as easily. So just thought I'd throw that out there, that if people would pay attention to the request to contact directly, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. And okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is 7QP status, and Tim's going to give us an update. But
I had a situation that I was going to say about the email list. I was
okay. Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead.
One of the things I've noticed is like Ann was saying, if they make a request to respond back to you directly, and it goes back on the list, next thing you know, I have a big pile of emails sitting in my inbox that I have to sort through that really weren't relevant to any conversation I was participating in. So I'm just pointing it out to Ann's point that if we just were more considerate that way, then we could cut down the volume of emails for other people that they didn't have to sort through, that they weren't really involved in the conversation with. That's just my comment.
Another one for me. I think most email programs have a reply to sender. I know mine does. If you haven't found that in yours, take a look anyway and see if you have that. That makes it a lot easier than trying to look up the email address of the sender. Also, Rob mentioned that there is on the website a list of lists. I've been looking around, poking through the website and haven't found it. Could you give me a pointer to where it is?
Dave, I could answer that one.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I post PDF copies under the members only section. And you can reach me at secretary@wa7law.org. And if you email me at that easy to remember email address, if you're a member, I'll give you the password if you've lost it. If you're just looking for an email and you don't do it every like 3 days, I'd be happy to look something up for you. So.
And I think Tom was talking about the list of IO lists. There's a list.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that.
Different list, but yeah, I don't know if Rob's still there. He's probably rounding up his grandson.
Pretty cats.
Yeah, there's another feature in Groups.io, and if Rob gets back, we can come back to this. But you can turn a setting on so you just get a digest, maybe once or twice a day of the emails. You don't get them all in your inbox. You'll get one email that lists all the emails that were sent to the group for the day, and that really can cut down, and you can then just sort through what's of interest to you and what's not. So explore the Groups.io site and look for that setting. You can get 1 or 2 digests a day, and if you do the daily, a lot of times you'll only get it the next day, so you might be a day late. But that digest feature is nice because it lumps everything into one email.
I did find the list of lists. It's under the email reflector information on the members area.
Great, thank you. Okay, are we ready to move on? Gary.
Good morning, everybody. With all the discussion about emails, and I certainly understand the frustration of receiving too many reply alls, I would hope that we're still open to newbie questions and seeing the responses of other members of the group. I have certainly learned a lot through Bruce's questions, and I have questions of my own. And I think that encourages other people to ask questions as well. So hopefully that remains. Thank you.
We definitely don't want to discourage interchange, but again, that digest feature on Groups.io is really nice because it lumps everything. And I get one email, I'm in another club, and there might be, 8 or 10 or more messages that have been posted over the last several hours, but I get one email and I can see what the topic is and just click on that, and it's a really nice way to sort of unclutter your mailbox. Rob, we've been talking about there's some concern about the reply all, and I just mentioned the digest feature. I assume we're going to have that.
We will. That'll be one of the things that we'll be able to guide people on making changes if they want to once we get things settled down.
Great, thank you. Okay, we ready? Next one. Okay, next item is 7QP status. Tim's going to walk us through this, but as we're talking about this, we need to start to think about and discuss when we should start in-person events. So May 1st, moving into phase 3, for example, should we plan on doing small group in-person events like for field day, salmon run, etc.? What do you all feel comfortable with at this point? I know Providence has not reopened for public use of their facilities yet, so that'll be one decider. But anyway, let's get an update from Tim, and then we can talk about those issues.
Good morning, everybody. I have been doing an email out. I've done it a couple of times, had a few replies. I'll send out an updated email later on today after I merge the lists together. It's basically, you pick a time group or a time, the mode and the bandwidth that you want to be on, and fill in your call sign. I'll merge it back together and then email it back out to the group. On the Friday before the event, which would be the 30th or 31st, whichever one, before Saturday, the 1st of May, with a finalized version of who's on what time slot, band, mode. And there's only the requirement that we have only one operator per band, per mode at one given time. And that's the reason for the spreadsheet type list going around. If you want to sign up, it's great to be involved in the club. Dave did touch on some of the upcoming things we had talked about. One thing that was mentioned during John's class on Thursday about if you didn't have a rig and you wanted to see what it was all about, joining a Zoom meeting and watching an operator, or say, listen, I'll just use John as an example, operate and listen to the conversation. And I know it's not like the real thing of actually putting your hands on the radio and being able to talk yourself, which is the ultimate goal. And that was kind of what Dave touched on earlier about coming together and some of the restrictions and guidelines that we'd like to set in place and get input from everybody as far as what everybody would be comfortable with. But as far as 7QP, it's still an individual event because we're not into phase 3 yet. That's pretty much all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Dave Cornell's waving his hand.
Dave?
Thank you. Trying to unmute. Thanks, Tim. I'm just curious, is it necessary to identify with the WA7LAW call for one's contacts to be merged with others for our club purpose?
Yes. If you're going to use if you want to be counted in the club's call for points, yes, you do have to identify with the club's call. And then you would, at the end of the event, you'd email me your log and I'll merge it with the main log that's submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Tim?
Yes.
It's correct, except that when if you were to use your own call, you can be identified with Snohomish County Hams Club in the one section that asks for club. And then it'd be an aggregate number if you are using your own call. So you could actually do it both ways. You could use the WA7LAW while your time slot, and then after you're through with the WA7LAW, you then can do your own call, but when you submit your log, you would submit it with Snohomish County's Ham Club identified, and there'd be an aggregate score of all members. Does that help? Tim?
Jim?
Hang on. Okay. Jennifer and I were just having a sidebar conversation, and she asked a question. I just didn't really have an answer. She was wondering if there is a, like Dave Cornell's talking about using the club call sign, but we may be in a different area. Is there a restriction on the distance from the club or anything like that? Not the footprint like they do at field day, but as long as we're in 7QP, or does it have to be within so many miles or something like that?
It has to be within Snohomish County. That was one of the prerequisites when they changed the rule from being at a club event to being at home. You still have to be within the county lines of Snohomish County.
Thank you, sir.
So Dave, that might preclude you being over in Idaho from using the club's call sign. Well, it does preclude you.
Hey, Tim, I think that only applies to if you're actually using the club's call sign as
right.
Yeah.
You know, as stated before, if you go ahead and operate under your own call sign, but when you complete your log and you attribute it to the club, I think that also works. So
that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So last year's special rules for field day, which have been extended to this year, said that you could do like what John was saying on field day for getting an aggregate score. You can be anywhere in the continental United States to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was over in Jefferson County last year for field day.
Yeah, and I know Dave got on, and so the rules will be exactly the same for field day. I don't know about 7QP because it's more local, but for field day, you'll be able to do what you did last year.
One thing that I will say that whoever brought that idea up Thursday night about the Zoom meeting was actually a very good thing. And I was thinking this afternoon as we settle down after after the club meeting of probably sending out a Zoom meeting. And I'm trying to figure out how I can get my radio. And although you won't be able to make a call, you'll be able to hear the exchange back and forth. And in some of the cases, I sat for a couple of minutes trying to figure out what this guy's call was because of his non-English accent. it was extremely tough to finally pull out a Sierra. So I'm considering putting that together for this afternoon.
Okay.
If anybody's available, we'll see what we can do.
Rob?
Yeah, I would encourage at some point. I was trying to look through the 7QP rules and regarding the specific issue of tallying with the club's score if you're operating under your own call. And I'm not seeing that, so it may be in a supplemental email. I know that this is one of those things to where it varies by contest. I believe Salmon Run is one that you can identify, and you can add your score to the clubs. So we'll need to do a quick check on the current version of the rules and make sure whether those that want to can tally their individual scores and roll up with the club. So just an aside there, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Tim, any last word on it?
Well, Dave, I am looking at the rules page here, and it does say, due to COVID-19 restrictions, distributed multiple operators are permitted again in 2021. Equipment used by multiple operators does not need to be in the same premises. It only needs that all equipment and antennas be located in the same county, state, province, or SCHC entity for out of area multiple ops. I guess that could be interpreted when it says same county, state, province, or SCHC entity for out-of-state area multi-operators. That would be where the question mark would come in, where it says entities for outside area multiple operators. Is emailing me the guys down in Oregon and finding out what their interpretation on that is. And I'll do that this afternoon.
Okay, yeah, and maybe if you could clarify about people using their own call sign, and then just when they submit their log, identifying with the club. That's common, but probably not all contests. Rob, you still got your hand up. I'll lower it. There we go. Okay, great. Anybody, anything else? Any quick thoughts, Roger?
Yeah, it looks like on the chat side, Gary Evans has a question about 7QP. The question is 7QP basically HF only?
Yes.
And I would say yes.
It is. I'm just posting a rule. 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. So no UH or VHF, UHF.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments? We don't have to address the in-person issue this meeting, but be thinking about it as the situation evolves. We can, we'll at some point need to make some decisions about trying to hold in-person events. Right now, our numbers in the county have kind of bottomed out and bumping along. We'll see what they look like next week, but we will need to address that here in the coming months. Any last thoughts before we move on? Okay, seeing none. Last item was just sort of an announcement. We had a donation of a Yaesu FT 2000 from Curtis Green, N7AME. Thank you, Curtis. That's really a generous donation, and just wanted to thank you. And are you on here? Yep.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. And I hope the club can get some good use out of it. It's a really nice radio, and it has a band scope function on it. You know, it's a little bit hokey to work with, but it works. And there's lots of good filtering on it. You know, so you can filter out a lot of noise. You know, and on the band scope, you can then see how the filter is affecting the received signal.
Great. Well, thank you again, Kurt. Roger?
Kurt, I kind of missed the first part of what Dave was saying, but if I understood what was said, is that you just donated radio to the club and you identified some of the capabilities of that radio. And that seems like a great idea. And I'm thinking in terms of field day, designating that more of a training device or for newly licensed ham operators to the scope looks like, a band scope looks like, what the value is. So it'll help people recognize features they're looking for while shopping for new radios. So I think that's really great, and we ought to consider a special designation for that station. That's kind of exciting. Thanks a lot.
Sure. Yeah, it's the nice thing about the scope is it displays on a separate monitor, and so I donated a monitor to go with it, but you could easily connect it up to a larger one and stuff. And you know, like I said, it's a little bit hokey the way they designed it. The scope doesn't fill up the entire screen on the monitor, which is a little odd, but considering the time when the radio was came out 5-10 years ago and stuff, it was there weren't a lot of them.
Great.
You can also switch the page and look at gray line and stuff like that, so there's quite a few little features to it.
All right. Well, thank you. Okay. Is there, excuse me, any other new business? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn, or we can move on to the program?
This is Ann. I move we adjourn and move to the program.
Second from Rob.
Motion and a second. Any objections? All right. Well, thank you all. Thanks for your patience. I know it was a little bumpy today, but good meeting. And I'm going to turn it over to John Van Dalen, N7AME, for a program on roving. John.
Okay, unmute here. Well, I'm going to share my screen, and Dave might have the radio station of the blimp, but I have my favorite place here. Hawaii. So, but we're going to spoil that with, I got to remember what right here. Why, and this is a discussion that we've had already last week, but all along I've been doing why being a ham. And basically, I hope my screen is shared. And one of the definitions of contesting that you may or may not know is it's a competitive activity in a contest, which may operate by individual or teams. You seek as many amateur radio stations as possible during a given period and exchange information. Now, the particular contest going on right now is the worked prefix, and the exchange is, of course, your call and a serial number. Now, I was just listening earlier before the club meeting, and there's some people who have already got up to 1,200 and 1,300 points or contacts so far. So when I get in this morning or this afternoon, I'm going to give them a 001 because it'll be my first contact, and the numbers will be increasing. So one of the reasons decided to do this is the idea of exchanging contacts. It's usually fairly quick. As I said, you pretty much say your call, maybe your name, a signal report, which is typically always 5.9. Even if you have to struggle to listen to them, they're always 5.9. And then, of course, something like a state or a county. Now, we have 7QP coming up. There's going to be, we're going to be playing with 7 other states. But in addition to it, this is that weekend that we're going to have May 1st, there actually is the 7 states of the West plus Indiana and the New England is having their QSO party. So there will be 7 other states. Some of the states, especially the worst one to get is Rhode Island, followed by Vermont. They're low population. New Hampshire's not bad. Delaware is always easy. For some reason, that's very, very easy. Connecticut's easy, and Maine and Massachusetts. So these people are going to be also playing. So you got 15,000 or 15 different states and 351 counties. Now that's the object of this the 7QP and the any stateside QP, CQP, I apologize, QSO party is you're after the counties. There's what, 3,077 counties and parishes in the United States, including Alaska and Hawaii. And some people like to collect them, and they get a nice certificate from CQ magazine for working counties. The group is called County Hunters. We're going to cover that a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. I apologize. I got the wrong guy going here. We're doing roving, aren't we? That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yep, roving.
I wondered when the roving part was going to come in.
I've got to find it first. Right there. Got totally fooled here. Totally.
So, it was replay of Thursday, wasn't it?
Cover on Thursday night. Okay, roving. Why rove? We'll start this one up all over again, and I do apologize. Roving is again, you're out there giving a county or a state and or something else, and as you get down to number 3 on this items of a person in relation to traveling to required different states, counties, national and state parks, summits, satellites, and here we go, a state QSO party. So what is roving? Now, let me turn this on correctly. There we go. This is some of the fun I've had, starting with the pictures in the middle here. This was during the Lighthouse weekend. We were down at the Shipshaw. It's a light ship that's parked in Union Bay. Then here is a couple of state QSO parties, field day. Here is I literally roved from my house to Everett High School and did a satellite demonstration for, I'm trying to get him to become a member of our club. And then of course, during the state park, we thought we were doing a summit on the air, but I broke 3 rules, so it didn't count. One of them was sitting in the truck and using the truck, and I wasn't at the summit. And then of course, here's the rove to Hawaii itself. And so, and this was this and this were field day. So the first things you got to do is, like I said there, a happy wife does make it life a little fun, because I used her car, which was this one right here. We, Chris Potis, K7II, and I roved in 7QP last year with her car. So we got it all wired up with an antenna on the roof. And so we're driving miles and miles and miles. And as I come down here a little bit further, I have the state park websites, Parks on the Air website. Here is the worldwide Flora is a national or an international group. I apologize, international group. You got a contest calendar out there that I think I've talked before, and there are a couple of them out there. And of course, if you're a member of the ARRL, you can get a weekly contest calendar mailed to you, which is pretty good. So in Roving, and Roving includes camping and things like Jim and Jennifer does, and a few other members do. You essentially throw everything in your trailer and your truck and you take off. And this was the picture is the pile I used to have. Now I have things a little bit more organized into different totes that I may have about 5 totes that I throw in the truck, hook up the trailer, and off I go. And right now I'm using a military mask kit, which is kind of heavy. And I'm considering getting, replacing that with a fiberglass one because it'll be a little bit lighter. And of course, all the household equipment and stuff. I actually have some MREs, the meal ready to eat and camp food, and the electronics. Don't forget your radio, batteries, cables, fuses, and always bring spares. Always bring spares. The other thing in some of the roving, a recorder becomes very important, especially on satellites. The exchange on the FM satellites is extremely fast. And if you don't get everything, you can be backed up with that recorder. Now that recorder there costs about $120 off Amazon, but it is an extremely nice little recorder. And every satellite person that I know of uses a recorder. This guy here, N7AME, does 3 or 4 QSO parties during the year, and he roves, and he uses everything off the recorder. He drives and works the calls at the same time, which I can't. I don't think I'm capable of doing that yet, but he did 2020, he did 2,500 QSOs, and in the day, I actually worked him 18 different times, and was able to, the only way I got a card from him was to, or a confirmation from those 18 was to send a card to him, and then he went through his tapes and confirmed all those calls. And I'm not going to be able to watch for a hand up, but if I'll try and catch it if I can. I'm watching for that if you got a question. So along with those, here again is my wife's car with the antenna. And basically we're talking about this year, instead of going to the big loop to Eastern Washington, we're looking at maybe doing the western counties in Washington. Here was our schedule that we had made, and it got fairly well defined because we had to figure out when we crossed the county line. And in some county contests, state QSO parties, Washington Salmon Run for us, people will drive up to the county line and actually work 2 counties at one time. But we decided we were going to drive through, we weren't going to stop. So we were going from one county to the other and on the way home. And of course, when I got close to deciding when I was going to log this thing, I had to obviously log it with the county and the grid number. And you can see I went through these different counties and the different grids for each of them. And if you'll notice, one nice thing about going to Eastern Washington, you cross a bunch of rivers. So the county lines happen to be the river, and it worked out quite nicely. So at the end of the contest, we ended up getting our score, end up down here at the bottom is 12,833. We had 41 multipliers. The multipliers are other states and Canadian provinces and DX contacts. We actually made 2. We had 3 CW ones because one gentleman asked us that he wanted 2 counties on CW. So Chris was nice enough to, we stopped and gave him the context. And so basically, I sat down and wrote an article for the National Contest Journal, which is part of ARRL, and I actually got it published. And so if anybody'd like a copy of that, I would be more than happy to send it to you. So, Chris and I got recognition from 5,600 readers. Now, again, we're talking about roving, and I have a list here of some of the roving events. You look at state parks and national parks, lighthouse activations or just lighthouses, county hunters, that's what I mentioned, Summit on the Air, and satellites and special events. Now, of course, there may be more there that I didn't. Here is one of the first websites I'm going to show you is Wild World Fauna and, or Flora and Fauna. Now, this is Parks on the Air. This is a worldwide organization. So when you sign up for this for free, you log in and a password, and then you can use it. And I can help, not in here, but at another time, if you wanted to join this and start learning to do Parks on the Air. Several others in the club are able to help also. But with this particular thing, you are competing, if you want to compete with people from around the world. So you can actually go, like you can see here, we have privileges in Canada. So I went during the Canadian National Parks on the Air a couple of years ago. And so I was N7AME/VE7. And they have national parks and Providence parks that you can work, and they're in this group. And again, those are for Washington. Now for worldwide. This particular site is a little bit different. It's called parksontheair.us. This is strictly the United States. And basically it has a map on it that will identify all the state parks, those little yellow dots. And when you hover upon them, you will actually see what that park is called and a particular number. Now, when you are calling CQ Parks on the Air, this is the number that they want to hear. They want to hear this particular park. Now, when you're roving, let's see, did I do that? No. Oh, okay. If you're roving, you can drive, here's Everett, right here, drive up to Deception Pass. There's your first park. Second, third, you actually can do 6 parks on Whidbey Island. And so you can rove those. I did 5 in one day. Now, I only activated, I think, 3 because propagation was disgusting up here at this particular park right here. And so I only made 2 contacts in an hour. And I thought I was wasting my time. So I went down to Fort Casey and I didn't stop at EB Landing because I had already confirmed that years ago during National Parks on the Air, because EB Landing is a national, state, county, and local park. So I already had that one, and I didn't need to do that one this time. Lighthouses. As you can see, here's the lighthouses in the state of Washington. Obviously, they're in the Pacific Northwest, but you could drive from one to the other fairly quickly. You could do a dozen, 10 or 12 contacts and then move to another one. And again, you're talking mobile, not setting up a station outside or anything like that. You're talking mostly mobile. And then, of course, they do have International Lighthouse Weekend. I know our club is set up down at Mukilteo a couple of times through the years. And I'm not sure what they would allow us to do this year. And for those that didn't know it, For this particular organization right here, the Lighthouse, what's the restaurant? Anthony Homeport has a lighthouse on top of the building, and it's considered an international lighthouse. So we have two right here in Everett. County hunters. Now, basically, I mentioned the county hunters. And here's the website. Thank you. The website, and I mentioned here 3,077 counties and parishes. There's 5 counties in Hawaii. They happen to be each the bigger islands. They have Alaska divided into 4 groups, and then you can work the rest of them. Now, this is the card. Jack, you might be able to remind me what this card is called, but this is a card that you can send to a person, which I did here, and you can see I have all the counties listed that I want him to confirm. He signs it off, and it becomes legal tender for the county hunter group. And I actually
Rick?
Sure. What
Now that's called a mobile reply card. Mobile reply card, or MRC.
MRC, mobile reply card. And at this point, I think county hunters are the only ones that recognize this as, now that's not denying using Logbook of the World or any other logbook system that's out there. But for county hunters, they still require a QSL card. And of course, this is the countyhunters.com. This particular one was just one I got from Fresno. I don't remember why I put it on there. It's not unique or anything, but it's had it. Now, Summit's on the air. Several of you have been using Summit on the air for VHF, UHF. You can also haul your HF equipment up there, and batteries and clothes, or, jacket and all that other stuff. You can do that. There are in Snohomish County, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 183 summits. Now, a summit is defined as, I believe, 500 feet or above to Glacier Peak, which is what, about 4,000, whatever that is. And this group, Summits on the Air, again, is an international group. And you can go through the database here and you can find, I know Jennifer and Jim go up to Anacortes, and there's a summit up there that they summit on the air with. And several people will go up into the different hills outside of Monroe and that sort of thing. And you can get up on top of one of those and do VHF, UHF. From that picture of me in the pickup, I was sitting there on Green Mountain, and I actually talked to a guy at Lewis McCord on 2 meters. And it was clear as a bell. So it was all line of sight, so it worked out quite nicely. I have never tried to apply for any awards or anything with SOTA people. So I'm not sure about how that functions, but there is a point system. The higher the mountain, the more of a points it's worth.
John,
Jennifer, you got any comments?
Who's up?
What's up, Victor?
Okay, about that 500-foot rule, and I wondered about that because that's not necessarily altitude. There's a place over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho called Tubbs Hill. When I was headed over there last summer, I was asking about it, and the elevation of it sits at something like 2,300 feet, but because of the lake, it only has 200 feet prominence. So the hill's only 200 feet up above the waterbed, but even though it's at the higher elevation, it does not qualify as a summit.
Well, Victor,
that's the key thing in there.
I would go to this website, go to the database, go to the county that that hill you're talking about is in there, and see if they actually consider it for this purpose, not for any other purpose, but for Summit on the Air.
Correct. I did talk to the regional manager on that one, and he explained why that rule exists. Yeah, thank you.
Confirm or deny that, but thank you. I'm just saying you need to play by their rules. If their rules say it is, fine. If it doesn't, fine. And then the one other thing you mentioned, Snohomish County, Lord Hill is considered a summit. So everybody and his brother goes up to Lord Hill, but it's actually considered a summit, but it's only worth 1 point compared to a Glacier Peak, which is 6 points, if you're competing.
I'll go to Lord Hill 6 times.
I'm sorry?
I'll go to Lord's Hill 6 times.
Yeah, good idea. Satellite roaming. You could say I've run quite a bit of roaming. I've gone up to the Canadian border, just this side of Canadian border, got into a different grid, because with the satellites, you're usually exchanging grid information, the Maidenhead grid system. And so there's a place up in Granite Falls, just before you get into Granite, that you can stand at one place near a telephone pole and a highway, and you can work 2 grids at the same time. There's another place south of, I think, Machias Road, that you can get 2 grids at the same time. So if you're traveling and you want to haul your satellite stuff with you, you can actually then work from that. I made 2 contacts while I was in Hawaii. So that's a tough one on FM, because there's not much activity over there. So again, it has its own website, AMSAT. AMSAT is responsible for putting the majority, or at least controlling or administering, every amateur satellite that has been launched over the years, including the one from the University of Washington called a Husky 1. And so roving, we can do all of these. Plus, remember, it's a 2-way street. You prove, they prove. So during a week, especially during the pandemic, there's been a lot of people going to state parks and national parks. So you'll hear at least 1 or 2 people doing state parks on the air during the week, but the weekends get a little bit more. And as it warms up around here, you'll also see that also. Just a closer look at the website. Here is the website itself, parksontheair.us, and it actually has a nice help file into a PDF form, and then you can actually then log into it, and the dashboard, here's a login, and they say, you'll notice that a lot of the parks right now are closed, so you can sit anywhere on the property, including the driveway at the locked gate. That counts. So here is a quick look at their website. This is, remember that the map I showed earlier about state parks, this is where you would find your park. Keeping score, if you're actually doing that. Spotting is very important. You need to tell people you're out there so that they know you are. I've collected some of the emails of different people I've worked, especially if I'm going to go to a different park, and I email them with my schedule. Park stats from all over the world, and then log in, and we're not logged in yet. This is actually what you'd see if you went to this website. And you can see the different scores here that people are keeping in. And down at the bottom here is active park spots. That means somebody has already reported that this, in this case, I'm sorry, it's down at the bottom, but somebody's at this park and looking for contacts. And here is where you can schedule yourself that I'm going to be in park such and such at what frequency and time. Now, Parks on the Air starts from here. This is just a simple, and it's free. They do obviously ask for donations. If you're a Facebook user, you can get on there. There's a lot of people that converse back and forth. Same with Twitter. The only Twitter account I own is one on for the satellites. And your email and a password. And again, it's free. Same with the international one is free. There apparently is some discussion between these two groups, and they've had some sort of discussion. And so things are a little bit different between the groups. But if you want, you can actually join them both. And again, they're free. And so here is basically my stats for the parks that I've worked in the last few years. You can see here's North Cascade National Park. It has a real low number because these were all numbered during the ARL Parks on the Air, and that you did do national parks and recreation areas. And the one particular group wants you to work them 44 contacts. So you'll notice that I've gone to some of these parks twice, still only have 31 contacts. So I got to go back up there and work a few more people to confirm them. And the same with the Olympic National Park. But here, I said earlier, I was at EB Island or EB Landing. I worked them 3 different times and I got quite a few contacts because it was still fairly good. And you can see down here, as I go down here, the different parks that I've been at. And here's, of course, my Lewiston Park was, Lewiston Park was last year Salmon Run. Of course, I got credited for the whole thing. And here's, you can see Langley. Here's the Canadian. And you can see the VE in front of the We Are a K. So if you actually went to Europe and was in Germany, it would be a DL or something like that in front of their park number. So, and so, excuse me, this is just a quick format of what the WWNFF website looks like. This is where your statistics would be. And then there's the different awards. This is, again, a map where you can look for different parks. And here is how you actually log in. Once you're logged in, you can now search for your call and come up with the information. It's kind of a klutzy, slow system because it is international. It's not a US website. So again, this list actually is almost exactly the same as the list I showed earlier. And you would see that the numbers are the same. And you can see in some cases, on this one, it doesn't show. But remember earlier that I showed you national parks, that this shows I was up there twice, but the other one only shows I was up once, but there was 31 contacts. So log in. There is a way of sending, you send them your log files, ADF, the amateur defined logging method, and you send them to, of course, LODW, Parks on the Air, and WWNFF. If you use paper and pencil, as I sometimes do, you have to load them into your logs so that you can send them. And here's where the kind of a snip picking goes on. This guy wants K 3270 plus the date. These guys want KFF plus the park and the date. But they still want, so basically it's the same information. The file is just called different. And you may get if you send them the wrong one, they may send it back. But they've always corrected it for me. But there are people that you send these to. And for 7th call area, this guy in NU0 Charlie C is the guy that we would send it to. And again, this is an awful lot of information. And if you got any questions about it, don't hesitate to email me, ask me. Because I've been at this for a few years, so I know some of the, not the nuances, but so I try and be helpful to you. Bruce, let's see if I can go ahead and ask your question.
This may be a random one, but for the lighthouses and parks, do you have to be on land?
No, I can't answer that.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I pile on my boat and head up to the San Juans or beyond every summer, and
I would not. You'll have to look at the rules.
Okay, thanks.
Look at the rules. I can't answer that. I never thought about that because I don't own a boat. Curtis?
You don't have to be on land.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks, Jack.
So what would your activation sound like when you start out at a park?
Okay, it's like any other contest. You can post yourself, but you can always call Dennis Bradford. I've called him a couple of times and said, post me, please, and or call somebody. And then you send CQ post parks on the air, CQ parks on the air. And then when they respond, you'll take their call sign, you'll give them the park number and in some cases the name of the park and a signal report. And that's pretty much it. You can exchange your name and any other information. A lot of times people carry on a 1-minute conversation because they've been to that park or they know where you're at or, oh, you're in, yeah, that sort. I used to live up there and you'll hear all kinds of things, but because it's not really a contest, but you're trying for the most contacts as you can. So this is more of a friendly thing versus like CQ Worldwide. They're out for blood. And like I say, that one guy was up to 1,300 on his sequential count at 9 o'clock this morning. So does that answer your question? It's really simple, and it's and it kind of moves depending on the mood of the day. You know, you can explain you're in this particular park, and you're sitting under a tent, or you're sitting in your truck, or you're in 2 feet of snow, whatever you're doing. You can describe that. Take a minute to do that. And the same with the lighthouse. It basically is the same thing. When Jack and a few of us went down to the Shipshaw here, we sat inside and it got a little warm, but we had discussions as we were working with different people, because just like the parks and the islands, and that's mostly parks, and this lighthouses, people want to know what's there, what's it look like, and then they also could be at a lighthouse themselves, or for parks it could be park to park, and of course people are trying to collect park to park for score. So I think here is August 21st. It's 48 hours is the next International Lighthouse Weekend. Should we want to consider doing something like that? Now, I was This was field day when I went to Point Wilson at Fort Worden. There's the lighthouse number, US 641, and I was also in a park, and so I was able to give both of those out on field day. And here's their website, Amateur Radio Lighthouse Association. That website is a little tough to go through too. I don't know how scoring goes on that one because I haven't figured it out, so I kind of ignore it. Here's the County Hunters. Nice website, does a lot of information. You can see that people are going up to 1,268 counties. I got, what was it, Jack? Something like 510 or something like that. I finally got my first award from them.
Yeah, you went for 500 and you,
yeah,
you
the
just
500.
barely cleared
Yeah.
that.
So here again, this website doesn't require any login. You can use it completely. The nice thing about this website is if you are in a state park, you can identify what park or what county you're in. Now you can see a lot of parks like let's look, Arches in Utah. It's in one county, but you go to the next one, the Badlands, you could be in one of three different counties. Now, if you could find out where that county line is, then you could be given two counties out at once. And of course, they each have a number, a reference that here's your county reference or park reference numbers. And the location, what state. It's a national park, most of the lower numbers are national parks or recreational places because of the ARL Parks in the Air that we had several years ago. That was a fun event. And that's what the award looks like. And here is their standard, 500, 1,000, 1,500, up to all of them. And I ran into one guy that has worked all counties. He was on his fourth time to work all 3,077 counties. I don't think I'm going to bother doing it. And that means he had to get cards from every one of those people because somebody's got it. Now, we just kind of basically looked at the picture earlier, but this is the high school physics class. The teacher happens to live about 4 blocks south of me. He's also a ham. And we don't see him very often because he's got 3 young kids. And of course, he's teaching. But this was considered a rove. And we ended up working, I think, what is it? 8 contacts, 7 states, and 7 different grids. 2 of them happen to be new. For me. And when I say grid map, here is a grid map of the United States that somebody created. And because I have an old copy of Excel, the colors don't show up correctly, but you can see all of these with call signs in them are the grids I have worked via satellite. And the longest one I've ever worked was down here in Florida. And this is on an FM satellite. And so I'm at 160 grids. There are people who have worked every grid in the United States and Canada. I've worked a few Canadian ones. And of course, the one thing during your activation that I have to talk about is logging. TQSL is your key to the logbook of the world, because obviously people want logged. So in this case, you'll notice that I have 2 of them here. I got N7AME and I also have N7AME/VE7. So anytime I log any parks in Canada, I would have to move to this location and I have to change my grid most likely not the zones. And then I think the next slide, oh, I guess the next slide doesn't go it, but let's go back to that one. But you have to come in here on your TQSL in your station location and make sure that you get the correct grid and the correct county. And in the case of, if you go to Canada, you got to make sure that you have a separate certificate, because this TQSL is for United States only. So the TQSL certificate, you have to request one for your change call sign. It's a simple process. Believe me, it comes in really, really quick. Any questions yet? Probably a lot, but you're trying to formulate what they are. So here again, transportation. I know I take a trailer with me. This was 7QP last year, and this was Green Mountain for what we thought was a summit, but it was a gorgeous day. And I took a 85-year-old friend with me who has climbed all through these mountains, and he enjoyed it, just wandering around. And I discovered that Mount Pilchuck is long, quite long. I didn't realize that because I'd never gone up the end of there. Because I always see it from the head, and it looks like it's just a peaked mountain, but it isn't. It goes way back there. So I learned stuff all along. So roving is fun. Roving can be busy because there could be some driving in between, and of course time for setup and that sort of thing. So the object, of course, the more people on the air, the more contacts for you. And don't forget to post yourself on, or again, depends on the contest. Now we're talking about roving here, but for contesting, you have to look to make sure that you can or cannot be posted, or you can use those posting services. And DX Summit is one of them that I use mostly, and it's relatively good. So I think, yeah, that's it. Any questions? I'm open to anything.
Thank you, John.
That it?
No.
As I say, you got my email, so if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to email me or give me a call. And thank you, everybody.
Anybody questions, discussion?
Let me unshare here. There we go.
Let's unmute and give John a round of applause and thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end, everybody. Just thank you for your participation today. Have a great day. Be safe.
'73, everybody.
73.
And turn on those HF radios.